Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy, Seth, and Mike. Good morning, and welcome back, everyone. It is a green day. It's a nice St. Patrick's Day, March 17th today, so can't complain. Got my green I Simply Excel shirt on, rocking the green today, supporting. How's everyone doing?
I look for green in my closet,
This does not
in
surprise
my
me.
drawers.
Seth is a man of his grays and blacks. He is. He loves
Lots of gray and black.
Lots of gray and black shirts and clothing, and there's not much color in Seth's portfolio.
That's got to say something about your personality, right?
Mr. Stormcloud?
He's just dead inside.
I'm pretty sure I would have the exact same thing, but speaking of a wife who is very much into the design, she'll buy things to say, this you need to change out of the white t-shirt. This will look better on you. And she's also very Irish, so today is a very much green day.
Oh, this is very much her day.
Hey,
That's true.
That's right.
Awesome.
And I think we'd be remiss, Mike, to do it on the air, but happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do we start singing?
Yeah, and I don't have to sing to me. I like the song
Happy Birthday.
Oh, thank you. I like the song from the Beatles. They have that no. You say it's your birthday. Have you heard that one? It's another good birthday song.
No.
Oh man, I'll have to go find the link for that one. It's a good one. I like it on Spotify. My dad was is a huge Beatles fan. Like, he loves the Beatles. So I remember listening to a lot of Beatles growing up, which was awesome. Yeah.
Did you have any traditions around the birthday? Was it like a special breakfast or pancakes or something you did when you were young that kind of like was always happen on your birthday?
Well, I mean, it is St. Patrick's Day, so I do remember. I have some memories when I was a kid. I lived in a smaller town growing up, and we would drive past this pharmacy like all the time. We had literally 2 stoplights in town. This was at the intersection of one of the stoplights. The pharmacy was right there, and so in preparation for St. Patrick's Day, there would be a bunch of cards. They would kind of decorate a little bit. Shamrocks would appear, and I always got really excited, like end of February, and I would always watch that thing because when it started decorating, I was like, "Oh, my birthday's coming." Because you just get busy, and it doesn't, like, people decorate for that holiday, and so that was kind of like always a fun thing, is always like having it decorated. I do remember having some really good memories of my mom made some amazing cakes over the years. Probably spent way too much time on them for me, and all I did was eat them. But I remember there was we have some photos of myself loving the monster truck with donut tires cake. So my mom made a cake with a monster truck, because I loved monster trucks, all about cars and trucks and stuff. And Bigfoot was like a huge thing when I was little, so I absolutely loved that. And then she made me a
Bigfoot
cake.
the dinosaur?
No, Bigfoot the truck.
Littlefoot. Sorry, no.
Bigfoot the dinosaur.
I was thinking of Littlefoot
Bigfoot,
from
man.
Land Before Time.
Yes, Littlefoot.
Tired.
Tommy's tired.
Those cartoons your kids are watching all the time.
Yeah,
right.
Gravedigger was my favorite growing up. I remember those things. So yeah, good memories. Enjoyed those things. Had good fun birthday parties growing up. So yeah, it's different now. I never knew how much. I never knew how much St. Patrick's Day was a drinking holiday until I got out to like Wisconsin, and then I knew.
You're like, I wonder why we started drinking when I was 5 years old. I thought it was for my birthday, but
well, it was different. We didn't have like Chicago dyes their river green, and like everyone goes out downtown Milwaukee and hangs out for leaves work early and goes to hang out at like the Guinness pub, downtown or whatever, the Irish pubs. I never knew that was a thing until like way later, and I was like, wow, this is like a big, like, people really celebrate this thing. Holy smokes. So anyways,
I just hope your favorite color is green.
I'll go with it.
Okay, sure. I'm not opposed.
I mean, my favorite color is gray, like Seth's, so. So any announcements or news? Actually, there's a couple events have been announced recently. Tommy, I believe there's one that we were talking about on the beforehand, the Microsoft Business Application Summit.
Launch event.
The launch event. Okay.
Launch event.
Yeah. So I think they started this either 2 years ago, but they definitely did it last year. And it's basically a inside look or preview of the actual Business Application Summit, which I don't know if we have dates for yet, but in just 3 weeks or 2 weeks?
I think we have it. I think I'm trying to Google it here very quickly. It looks like Wednesday, April 6th,
That's the
20.
launch event.
That's the launch event,
So
2022.
yeah, it's just an hour and a half long.
Yeah, an hour and a half.
So yeah, and so that is basically like they're gonna preview, I guess, some of the things they're gonna talk about. I think it's been like on the community blog and a bunch of other places. So just sent the link out there. I'm excited because that's coming up too.
Yeah,
I guess in May.
and I feel like the announce they typically hold back some stuff for around that time for that announcement. So when they do the business application summit, they usually kind of give out a couple more key features, I guess, that they were developing or
Right.
building that are coming out. So those are always fun to watch the new demos of what they're cooking up, figure out what they're producing. So I like that part of it. I like the part of them bringing the new exciting things. What are we gonna have to learn new?
That's what I remember when I saw automated insights. I'm like, it works so well.
Oh boy, automated insights. I will say
Oh,
this. I do like one of the features that came out, I don't know, maybe more recently, was the anomaly detection feature. Just the fact that they could show a chart and drop anomaly items on a chart. That was pretty cool. Not so sure the insightful piece of it is super relevant all the time, but I do like the idea of being able to like drop out a chart and say, here's the anomalies in this time series. That's kind of cool.
well, you can do that now with automated insights, and the limitation with the anomaly before is you couldn't have a hierarchy in your column, or in the x-axis. So if you wanted anomalies, it had to be by week or by month, and you couldn't drill up or drill down. But now you get that with automated insights.
And is automated insights a premium only feature, or is that a?
Well, last time I said that it was Pro 2. I'm gonna assume so,
I
but
think it was premium. I'll have to double check to see if
I
that's
think
still
it's probably
premium.
Pro 2 because it's like when you go from a goal to the report, the insights panel opens up. So, well, that should be fun this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Dynamics Con.
Is there another event that you're thinking about, Seth?
I'm just looking at on the community site, and there's a interesting Dynamics Con.
I'm waiting for like a
Oh.
real sentence to come out here.
Yeah.
You're just like mumbling words over there.
No, okay. So there's it's an interesting thing because it's Power Platform Business Application Professional. So like looks more dynamics,
Mm.
but it's called Dynamics Con, and that is something that's being touted on the Power BI community site.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll have to pay attention to that one. Maybe in some point in the future there'll be like a RBI Tips conference. That'd be fun.
All of these Power Platform things, I think it's hard because the first big conference was all around Power BI.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to just have a conference around Power BI. Like you
I'm
gave
with
us
you.
the ultimate, and it was the best thing ever, and then you took it away.
Well, I definitely think. I mean, there is a large audience of. I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, right? I'm thinking from Microsoft's standpoint, right? If you
Yeah,
already love
I
Power
know.
BI,
Yep.
they're gonna try and build a bunch of other
100%.
tools that are gonna be cool and interesting, and you're gonna love working with them as well. Understandable, but
Totally get it.
I'm with
totally
you,
get
Seth.
it.
Though I feel like there needs to be there's a momentum around this Excel and Power BI group that is like this is the business world. This is the analysts of that space, and we kind of want our own space. There was a conference that I never got to get a chance to go to. I don't know if it's still around after the pandemic, but I think it was like an Excel conference that was down in like Texas or something like that. I want to say there was something down there that was purely like it was just for Excel users, and they have like Excel. I know they have like World Cup Excel challenges where they get people together and they give them challenges. Have you guys watched any of these things? And oh my gosh,
They're like Excel hackathons.
it's like more than that. There were some gentlemen that were putting it on. I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but they were people in Excel. They had given them an incredibly hard challenge inside Excel, and they had like a couple hours to go through and compete on it. And there was a whole bunch of questions they had to answer about things. And as they went through Excel, they had to get points for every one of their answers. They got it right or wrong, and so they had like waves of questions you had to get through, and the one who had the highest points won. It was quite impressive. the things that they were doing, I was like, wow, I'm not used to using functions like that. So that was
What
pretty
I'm
cool.
impressed about is that you were impressed because your level of Excel knowledge is pretty high.
Yeah,
Well,
I go pretty crazy with some of the Excel things. These are like the all star. This is like It was like professional. Like it was like, hey, Michael plays soccer on weekends with his family, right? And I'm okay at it, and I'm pretty good. But like, this was like walking into like a stadium and watching like people actually play
The
real football
pros.
or real soccer, like
well,
the
this is what
pros.
it's really like. Yeah.
It was amazing.
I know. Have you seen? I mean, we don't give enough credit to Excel on its own, but they've been making some major updates regardless of Power BI.
Yeah.
Have you got like the Lambda feature?
Yeah.
You can write your own functions.
Yes.
I wish that I used Excel more for that, like back in the day.
Yep.
And then they just released a few other functions around like text replaces, basically like a split column by delimiter, so to speak, but just for an Excel function.
Yep.
They have
We
some
blew it.
amazing
We
things.
blew it.
I
We
know.
could have talked about the green today.
We should have been talking about Excel all day.
And anyway, well, at
That
least
would
we
have
opened
actually made
with
a
it.
lot of sense.
At least we
Well,
opened with it. I
Too
love it.
bad.
I mean, I
All
try.
right. I digress. Let's move on. Awesome. Well, let's jump into today's topic. Today's topic is all around the new formatting pane. So, if you are aware, or if you downloaded desktop in the last, I guess, couple of months here, I think the February release of Power BI Desktop. I don't think the March one's out yet. It's not
Not
available yet. But the February release, I think by default it turns on the formatting pane. Or is it something you have to
Yes.
turn on? I can't remember. I keep turning it on
It's
and off.
enabled by default in
Okay.
February.
So the format
Feb
pane
is the default.
is a preview option, but it is now on by default. So now people can start using the preview pane. And we're just going to kind of go through initial reactions. I've been using it on and off. I have just recently taught a class where I had a number of users using the format pane, and I can have some observations around that as well. So let's jump in with that. Tommy, what are your initial thoughts on the formatting pane?
So before I give my thoughts, because I don't want this to be too negative. For a lot of those who are listening, this is a major change by the Microsoft team, because if you think about it, the formatting pane really hasn't changed for 7 years. It's
Yeah.
been the same,
Yep.
with everything in the same place. Like the color kind of changed, but everything else has stayed the same for 7 years. And so we're all very familiar with like where everything is. But what they've really done is like blow it up, so to speak, from the ground up, in terms of accessing certain components of a visual,
Hmm?
where things actually live or are located, where titles are.
Yep.
And then also basically the grouping, and also name changes. So basically how they label something, like I think one's effects now,
Hmm?
and that's where like the colors are. So it's quite the significant shock to the system. Personally, for me, like I said, I think it's part um adapting to change, but I think the 7 years, like enabled to be like, well, I might as well get used to it, but I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I'll wait until I have to, basically, right now. Just because when you're used to something for so long. But that being said, I like the idea of how they're grouping some of,
I do.
like the idea of the grouping of different components. That makes more sense, and it helps a lot. I mean, that was one of the biggest frustration, is you only have a limited screen space if you're trying to edit multiple things. The name changes, and in a sense, the substance of where things are located and what they're under. I don't know how intuitive that is.
I've got to change my
I
I've got to change my language around like what
yeah,
you're
the
talking.
language changed.
Like, so that's probably the thing that's the most jarring to me is things were named something else, but now they're named something different. Like, you had a report page, your report page changed from page to canvas. So they've kind of tweaked some of the names. So I keep getting confused on like canvas. What's canvas? Is that okay? That's the report page. Okay, got it. And then they have like the wallpaper. So that's kind of throwing me off a little bit there. Tommy, did you ever so one of the things that they added here that I really like here is they have this option. Well, a couple things. I think this is a move. What they've done here with the cards and how they've changed the formatting pane. There were some buggy things around the original one. One thing I remember doing a lot when we had the old formatting pane, until I memorized where all the properties were, was I was going in and I was having to find, when you had to find a feature, when you had to find a setting, like you're just looking for something, the
Mhm.
list was really long, and
Yeah.
you had to like go through each section and kind of open it
Scroll.
up, open it up, open it up, open it, like, and then I would open with a section, like, no, that's not it, close it, go to the next one, open it up, and then close it. So I did until I learned kind of like where things were supposed to live, and I think this is the problem for us, is because we did that for a number of years, and we have muscle memory to like, oh, that's this setting, it lives here. And
Right.
so now for us who like for new people, they're like, oh, this is great. They know no different, right? But for us, we have 7 years of bad practice or old memories in there that we have to like rewrite. And like as we get older, appropriate with the birthday tone today, our brains start hardening, and we're less we have less neuroplasticity. Oh, look at that word!
Yeah. And
Neuroplasticity.
what a word.
What a
Nice
word!
job.
Hey,
Oh,
that's like a bonus
wor-
point on my birthday for being able to throw
Yeah,
out that
you
word.
get bonus points.
yeah, definitely bonus point. So
And that it's
wo-
the I think that if I define the word, that's the word that's where you can actually like learn. Like it's the ability of your mind to be able to learn new things, right? So
adapting. Yeah.
if you have more plasticity to your brain, you can learn more things. So as I get older, I'm learning less and less apparently.
I agree, and that's kind of some of the tone you probably heard in previous podcasts where we've touched on this topic a little bit, where
Yeah.
it's like you create a lot of neural pathways to muscle memory where things are that you're like are shattered. Like literally you're relearning the whole thing again.
Mm-hmm.
um and you can expect that in general there's always going to be some pushback, but I think the important thing, regardless of whether you're talking about a format pane or something new, is you have to find the good. There is positive
There's a reason for the change.
man, words are hard for
Recommended.
me this morning.
Welcome.
Recommended things
Recommended.
that people make when they're talking.
Recommended.
Well, like there's nuggets of improvement that can be made
Totally
in
agree.
some of that feedback as well. Yeah. I do like one of the the main drivers behind it, I think, which is the readjusting the layouts of things to consolidate space,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we were definitely getting into the realm of everything's a scroll, right? And
Totally.
for new users too, like they any of the complaints we have about the new interactions, like that was getting bad. Where you're
Mm-hmm.
like scroll. One of the things I love that is gone is like the double scroll bar.
Yes, there
Like
was a double
Oh
scroll bar.
the
gosh.
it's like the page. It's kind of what happens in embedded, right? Like a page within a page where you're trying
Yep.
to scroll something and you have to like move the cursor over and scroll again, except your
Inside
window
a window within
was
another
was
window.
really thin. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
solving some of those user interaction problems in the properties pane, especially when it was so condensed,
Yep.
um, is gonna is fantastic. It's a great move. It allows you a lot more real estate on the properties pane.
And it,
So an important tip and a concept that I think has been the hardest for me is there's two, in a sense, toggles or sections, so to speak, of visual and
no,
general.
yeah.
And this is where it can get confusing. So in the Microsoft documentation, they basically split it out. Anything under general, and this will probably help people as they go along. General is basically anything that's universal to all the visuals. So
Sure.
background, title, like those are all things
Size,
that every
length,
visual,
width.
right?
Yep.
Every visual has.
The
The
two, like the
visual
icon
section,
is the icons on there. So like the which icons are showing on each visual. 'Cause that's also very common too. I'm gonna have to put literally. I'm gonna have to
tooltips, header icons,
tooltips. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. All that kind of
effects.
stuff.
So, and then there's effects like background, shadow, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that so that general has all universal components. Visual is specific to that particular visual. So if you have a line chart,
Yes.
the marker is going to be under visual and always live there. I think the problem is not, I don't want to say a problem, but the hardest thing to kind of go through is you're used to, let's say, like the data color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something you always do. You know exactly where it is. There's more clicks to get there now because it's basically under effects and then under colors, and
Mm.
it's not necessarily like showing up. So
Yes.
it's collapsed by default.
Yep.
So you can miss it. Um,
And does the search? So was there search on the old
yeah.
toolbar?
I really don't use search for stuff like this.
I
Yeah.
don't, but some people in the comments were saying they like the search and they're using the search a
Before
bit
we
more
move
now.
off that though,
Oh, sorry.
like one of the really nice things with the split between visual and general
Yes.
is now like updating all of the common things across objects on a page,
Oh,
right?
true.
If you're not using a theme or whatever, like that consistency now is super easy because you're just ripping through all of the visuals without the disjointed experience of adding and removing the other visual specific properties
Mhm.
that kind of move things up and down.
Yes.
As they were just kind of bolting in new properties, some of those got lost
Well,
or moved around while you were doing them.
I think to your point, I hope that's enabled in a future update where, like, if you say you want to update multiple visuals, different types of visuals, like a bar chart, a line chart, and a scattered chart, and if you select all three, you know, obviously, and you try to go to like title or background, you can't do so. The only way you can do that is if you select visuals that are all the same type.
Yes.
Like,
You can
and
only
then you can
group modify things.
Which was the same in the previous
right, the
experience
same,
too.
right,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think that general feature should
Oh,
then
they could
allow
change
you,
that
yeah,
interaction now.
because
Yeah,
if those are
yeah.
all universal to every visual.
Yeah.
So,
Or
that's not
or or there's an option now to only show the general if that happened. I like
right,
that idea.
just show the general, exactly.
Right.
So then I can update those things because those are universal. I don't That's not in the February release, but I'm hoping.
It's interesting you say
Hmm.
that, Tommy, because I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually testing what you're saying right now. And just to confirm, I like what they've done here because now I'm looking at I have a couple of visuals on a page. I have excuse me. I'm selecting two of them. And if I select two visuals of the same type, the properties are still exposed. So
Mhm.
to what we did before, it's the same thing. But I do remember previously in the old format pane, if you selected two visuals of different types, like a bar chart and a table, you would still see the properties of those visuals. It still's there. Like they never removed it, right? It would still be there for what was selected. But now, if you select two different visuals, you now only get the page level information. So you can see like the
Yeah.
wallpaper, the canvas background. So it's the same thing as clicking on the report page, or they call it the canvas now. Apparently, you click on the canvas, and now you can see just the canvas settings. So I do like that feature because it was very confusing before when you would highlight multiple visuals, and when you selected the like sizing, right? I want all the visuals to be the same size for whatever reason, right? You want to just adjust them. You couldn't do that. You can't do that. But now
I think that
they
was the
take the
same in the original. If you select 3, it would just go to the page.
really.
Yeah.
I thought that wouldn't do that. I thought it would still give you those options because I remember adjusting things and saying, "Oh, these visuals don't update. Why? Oh, that's because they're different visuals." Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Hmm. Interesting. Well, I like that feature functionality. I think that's the fact that they're blocking it from you a little bit more. I think that's good.
Yeah. Well, it's funny though too because I mean, you have to. I don't think we can underestimate how important this change is to anyone who's been working it, because this is where you're at most of the time when you're designing the report. You live in the formatting pane. Most-
Unless you're proper no, not properly. Themes are a good thing to spend time in now, right?
Well,
Well,
so
not
But you do. You live in property panes. I mean, if you want to start customizing and move off, which everybody does, um, yeah, you spend a lot of time in here.
I would agree. And yeah, there has been some weird, maybe call it bugs or things that I've been a little bit like, I'm not sure what it's doing. Um, there's this concept of like a default theme that's kind of already pre-applied to all your visuals, right? There's something that's already
Mhm.
there. I've had a couple instances where, like particularly around the slicer, where even though the filter pane shows that there is a color selected for something, in reality it's not selected. There's nothing there, right? For example, I put a slicer onto a page. The background of that slicer was or the I wanted the background of the slicer to be clear, but I wanted the slicer drop down menu bar to be white, a color, right? So you turn off the transparency for the slicer, and then everything goes transparent because the bar is behind
Right.
the on top of the background of the slicer. And so it's like, well, why is it doing that? And so when I added some more features to it, you had to go in, and I had to go down to the option for the values which again wasn't very intuitive for the slicer, turn that to white, and then it was, even though it was already showing the white color, I had to actually go in and reselect the same thing again. It wasn't like it technically had no color. It was only when I applied the color that it applied the color for the value section. So there's still some weird, edge casey things here that are like, what is it doing? I'm not sure I understand exactly how it's functioning yet. So I got to spend some more time learning it.
What would be some of the minor things that you would like to see uh change as they move forward? Because I'm sure they'll keep making updates, and it doesn't have to be groundbreaking, but just like minor cosmetic things, or things that you can ask them to do in a month, so to speak, that you would want to see.
Oh, I like those. That's a good question. I do use fairly frequently the expand all categories and collapse all categories. We talked earlier about how I would search for options in the format pane. Now that there's a visual and general area, sometimes I would like it just to expand. Like, I would like that to be a button as opposed to a click the ellipsis and then hit the expand categories.
Mm,
I want it to be like a single button on the ribbon there that's just open close
expand all.
automatically. So I can click the visual, click open all, and boom, all the visual properties are opened up, and then I can just kind of scroll through slowly until I find what I'm looking for, because I'm not used to where I haven't figured out, I haven't
Yeah,
learned the new
yeah.
arrangement of where things are. So that's one thing I use a lot. I don't use collapse all very much. And one thing I do not like around that one is when you click the ellipsis, the very first item in the list is reset all settings to default. Don't put that at the top, please. Put that at the bottom and put a little dotted line between that and everything else, so I don't accidentally hit that one a couple times. I've done that before.
Oh my goodness. So I think I know I like that one. For me, like I can be very I get frustrated about things that are minor things, but I think for me, the thing that I'm noticing in the workflow is the things that I did the most frequently are now not hidden, but they are require more clicks than before. Like
Yes.
I'd always like shadows, colors for the charts or visuals, right? Like every color setting is generally in a collapsed state, like so it takes a few more clicks. I kind of wish that
The
um
expand all will be your friend in this area, because then it's
yeah,
2 clicks, you see everything. So you're not clicking like, to your point though, Tommy, right? You go into the section called, if I'm in a slicer header, and then you go
yeah,
into the section called text.
yeah,
Okay, then you have to go into the section called border. Okay, so there's more sub menus here that are happening in this. And
yeah.
while I understand the idea of the cards, I think at some level they're wasting a little bit of space
I
with
agree.
the card inside the filter pane, because before it was just like the pane. And again, I understand you're trying to provide distinction between, like, these properties are together, these are the same things of properties, but uh, you're losing a little bit of pixels on each edge of that, right? We already don't have enough space today in desktop to manage everything. Make the cards go all the way the full width or
Right.
something, or
Well,
make it a little bit
yeah.
easier there.
Well, like the line chart, right? Where colors is,
Hmm.
like you gotta scroll down and then like under visuals, I think it's one of the lower ones. It's basically like the fourth one from the bottom. Then you have to go down and then expand colors, and that's where color. And I feel like that's a very frequent thing done for a lot of people. Even if you have a theme, you're probably modifying those colors. So, just little things like that. I would love to see. I know some other tools do this where you can pin your most favorite components.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So,
I like that
but
one.
think that could get a little complicated from the dev side. Anyways, I think
Doesn't matter. I mean, I think
yeah,
I think that's like, if you, or at least provide me a setting or something like that that says, just highlight the most used stuff, most used
yeah,
cards, or something.
yeah, the most frequent, more popular or whatever.
That's interesting. I like that idea. Seth, you have something to say? Took a minute.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
No, I would say a couple of the things that I'd like to see is like I agree, Mike. Your reset to default should be on the last
Bottom.
selection,
Yeah.
but I'd also like the option to either control A all objects on the page and have that setting, or give me a universal revert everything to default, as
Oh,
opposed to only being able to still choose the same object types and then reverting, right? Because you're making, like, I want the revert everything.
yeah.
Right, in the report, but if you're not going to do me, like, give me that, I can do a control A on the page and revert everything
I like
there.
that idea.
Um,
That makes
one of
sense.
the things I do like, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it wasn't until digging into this further and playing with it a lot more that you're always going to have the challenges, even with the old filter pane of like expanding and having a ton of what they're calling subcategories
Mm-hmm.
now. But I really like, how do you solve that problem, right? And I'm trying to put myself in a perspective of like, you have tons of properties. How do you like, what is an easy way to allow people to access or explode or whatnot? And if you open a category, right, and do the right click, there's the ability to expand the subcategory itself, right? So you like, you on the very top level, you can explode all the categories and everything just gets blown out. You can scroll down to your heart's content,
Hmm.
or you can keep your top categories, just hover underneath it a little bit, and if there's like 3 subcategories,
Mhm.
you can explode the subcategories. And then like it's growing on me, this like, click, right click, bam, it's all exploded. Now I collapse it, now I explode it, now I collapse it. Like, so that interaction of allowing me to see it on a top level, I can see is going to be probably something I really like as I go along, because
Mm-hmm.
it gives me the hierarchy of things in a really fast way to explode and collapse it.
That
Which
that's
to
actually
your point, Tommy, like to get to colors, right? Is now I can open a top level category, understand whether or not, and it'll be, where is colors typically, right? But then explode the subcategories, see the color, update it, collapse it again, and then keep rolling.
no, I think that I didn't know about the right click feature because that's huge. Which is kind of hilarious that this is like a meta joke because our consumers have trouble with right click in a Power BI report.
Right.
They
And
know
we
it's
have
available.
trouble. Like, we should just right click on every new feature.
Right. And then this is Microsoft doing this to us. Like, and they're probably thinking, why didn't they know about right click? It should be so. It's this feature that's pretty powerful. But yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, there's definitely. I just tried that now. I'm like, oh, so I can see everything. I am noticing too. There's a lot less features available on screen when you like expand all.
If you explode
Yeah.
all, it's all there,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying what you have available, what can you click on? What's available on your screen?
Mhm.
Is very. I th- I think it's got to be like half the items that you can look at. So
That's
and,
what I was kind of talking to earlier.
yeah,
There's a lot more like,
the,
a little bit of fluff or a little styling that's been added there, right? There's a properties section and then there's another subsection. So each of those 2 headers take up a little bit of space, right?
right.
There's now each thing is lives in a card. So there's a little delineation between 1 card and 2 cards. There's a couple pixels you waste there. I mean, I
A
ca-
subcategory may have one
But you're talking
component
about
in it.
wasted pixels and stuff, but a lot of it like has been consolidated,
that's true.
right? Like, I, for some reason, I don't like the toggle. I don't know why. I don't like the toggle.
I love the
Maybe like
toggle.
visually,
Oh, the
but
little on
like
off
I
buttons.
like the fact that it's, yeah, but the fact that it is so far to the right now instead of a slider, right? Like, you're talking about space, like the old format pane, you lost some of the like
Because it was
the
underneath.
actual
Yeah. Agreed.
property
Yep.
name itself, right?
Yes.
So I think it is cleaner, and
I
it's
agree.
showing things in a less condensed way. The other thing that now all of a sudden I'm excited about, right, is there's a lot more space for you to add in visuals, like maybe a new table, or like,
Yeah.
but a lot of more space on that main page for like the visual icons, where things were already starting to compress, and you're running out of more screen real estate for properties, which is probably the worst thing ever. And now that's been kind of segmented into different areas, as well as making properties front and center, right? Them
Hmm.
being on the top instead of under visuals. Like, for us, it's always made
Yeah,
sense, because you're like, hey, yeah, I grab the visual, then I'm going to move down, then I grab, this, and now I'm doing properties. But I think what that does is it treats those as, there are top level menu items in here that you guys should be cognizant of, because as you're selecting a visual, you can change the properties of anything on the page or whatnot. So it's a slight visual shift, but I think it's a good one, because it just brings to front and center that these are formats, properties, settings you can do on, the page, the canvas, which is now a sub thing of the page, I guess,
Yeah.
and then the visual itself, right? So I do like that.
I'm trying to pick up something here. I believe there was. Did anyone go to the keynote for Power BI Summit? That was Rezarad's
Yeah.
event.
I watched it after.
Did you watch it after? I'm trying to pull up some details on there, but there's some interesting comments that were made in the keynote of that were really good. I'm trying to pull them up here while we're talking, because I think there's some
Of what?
just some stuff that's coming in the future.
Oh,
On the
okay.
formatting pane?
Well, yes, I think. I'm just trying to make sure I don't.
I think I know where you're going with this.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Like, I know exactly where we're going with these things, because I think there's some. Will Thompson was doing some really interesting options here that would allow us to see some different things on the report visuals. That I think this is potentially also why they're doing this change to the formatting pane as well. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you actually look at some of the things that I do love seeing is like two thoughts. Like when you go to the format your visual, there's obviously this like kind of white space, like visual general, and then there's all this white space. And then on the top, like when they have like the format your visual, the analyze icon, and then there's that additional white space to the right of it.
Mhm.
That just tells me there's more things to add. There's more features that they can add in the future.
Now
So-
you've expanded to saturate the new properties pane, which is ultimately what's going to happen, right? Like,
yeah.
you're not gonna start removing options,
oh
Right.
no. There's only going to be an increase of options. I would totally agree with that.
right?
Let's see. I'm trying to go back through here. I think I found the section in the. Keep going. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see a slide. It's from the Power BI Summit. Will Thompson talks about it. He talks about being able to click on elements inside the. So, what is the solution to the filter pane? Right. How do you make it a better experience than what you have?
Pane. Okay.
Filter pane.
Sorry, I didn't mean filter pane. How do you make a format pane? So how do you make a better experience beyond that, right? Inside
You
the
can
context of a visual.
Separate it from the
You separate it. You're right. So going into the visual itself, and so what Will demos is going into a chart where there's on the legend, clicking on the legend, and the properties of the legend appear, right? So there's like you can click inside that, like, so you don't have to go to the format pane to click on the things that you want to style or adjust.
kind of like Excel.
Kind of like Excel, or more like it would be in like PowerPoint, right? In PowerPoint, you get more of
like a paginated report.
Oh snap! Exactly.
No,
You're right.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. That was for you, Chris. That was for you.
That actually makes a lot of
So
sense.
that's interesting though, because it would have to be some sort of keyboard shortcut click, wouldn't it?
Maybe to expose those
Well,
things.
because you would have you
Oh, yeah,
already
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
things that show and hide or don't, and then like if I want interaction
That's a good
interaction
point.
of like click on the bar,
Yep.
it's going to filter the page. Now I would have to
Go
if there's a
into
format
edit.
something.
Go into edit mode or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, and then
right.
because then you could click. Then you could literally click on like the x-axis
Yeah.
and say, okay, x-axis, click it, and then all the settings for the x-axis just appear.
That would be great.
And so now we have like the pop out ability of like, so Will's demoing a little bit of that in the inside the Power BI Summit.
I'm sorry, in the chat, Rafael was like format pain, PAIN.
Yes, yes.
It's like yes,
It
we're
is
masochists. We love the properties.
the
of the
format
pain, man. Yeah,
PAIN.
like we have a whole show on how you can like mess with properties.
Totally would agree with that one. So yeah, good stuff out there. If you haven't, I think you can might be still sign up for that, but I think you can still go to the Power BI Summit and look at the keynote there.
Did the formatting options appear on the canvas or on the side?
On the canvas, like literally again,
Oh, okay.
as if so.
Really?
Think.
No, don't do that. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
What they're demoing is it looks a lot like PowerPoint, right? You have a title, you have you click into that text box or whatever that thing is on PowerPoint. From that menu, a little context aware menu appears, and then you could say, change the fonts, change this thing. You could stylize that individual property right there, but just by clicking on it. So
that would be, well, I mean, I can see pros and cons of that.
Yeah.
But as long as that's not a formatting option that's not going to show up also in the format pane, right? Like it can't be a subsection of something that's not going to be visible
Yes,
on the right hand side.
I would agree with that.
Like if it's just an option contextually, like it's easier for an end user to figure out that when they click on this table, they can auto just update the title right there.
Yep.
Right, or see
Yes.
Okay.
That would be
a
helpful.
fly out and fix there. Like
Or
that
the
makes
header.
sense to me.
The header would be one that would be kind of
But
not
even
annoying.
still with PowerPoint, right? Like there is the format pane on the right hand side.
Yeah,
It's not
and if you click,
contextual. Like what you're describing to me is like
it pops out.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but
Huh.
in PowerPoint, the way it works, if you select like a certain component, it will show on the side. That what I would love, like it automatically goes to that setting
Yeah,
or that
I can see
configuration
that.
on the formatting pane.
Yeah, like
So,
if you build like the smart shapes, right? Smart shapes
right.
appear, and there's a special window for smart shapes. You click on the smart shape, boom, you're in smart shapes. You can do what you want to
Yeah.
do there.
Yeah.
It is kind of hilarious that they call it PowerPoint for data, and those options are nothing like PowerPoint.
I don't really love the whole analogy of PowerPoint for data. I mean,
Really? Oh,
no, it's
tell me why.
I
I,
just don't think it's the right
oh.
thing. It's its own thing, right?
Poke.
It's born out of,
Poke.
I feel like, I feel like this is born out of Excel. This is a graduated Excel world here. This is not power. It's its own thing. You don't say Excel is the PowerPoint for data. Excel is Excel. Power BI is Power BI. It's separate. Like it's all about your
I
data.
think it's about adoption.
So
They're
here's an insight for you, and you can tell me whether or not this is dumb or not, right? Very early on, someone said Power BI is PowerPoint for data, right?
Someone and it caught
But
on.
but the reason I agree with you, Mike, and I don't like that is Power BI came out as this, pseudo tool which was Excel born,
Yeah.
and they were going to throw it into SharePoint.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it was like because somebody
The
had a vision of
original,
like
yeah.
it's SharePoint, it's the next version of this SharePoint thing, and it evolved into its own like own product and tool that took off faster than I think I don't know if anything Microsoft has ever had, but like huge success with it. To pigeonhole it into PowerPoint, I think does it a disservice. Like think
Yep.
bigger.
Think bigger.
Make it bigger than PowerPoint. Like
PowerPoint's around visual
make
presentation.
it integrate.
That's it.
Yeah. Make it bigger than PowerPoint and better.
Yep.
Because it serves so much more than just PowerPoint.
Yep.
Right?
I agree. And
I agree with you.
That's kind of my
Think
beef
bigger.
to that some degree. Like it's like we're modeling. It's a modeling tool. There's other. This is the biggest differentiating feature between Power
everything.
BI and every other
Right.
visualization tool out there is you have this amazing analysis services engine in there, and this is the thing that blows my mind every time. That sucker gets an analysis services engine for free. Everyone can go download it. It just works. A free program can handle hundreds of millions of records of data on your local machine. Now, when you want to share it, that's a different story. But the fact that you're getting this thing for free is absolutely amazing to
Right.
me. Like
Well,
that's
they're trying.
But in the
there's a
same way,
different-
right? Like take some pieces of SharePoint that you really like from a presentation. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
But Power BI can do so much more. So like keep extending, keep going,
Mhm.
right? Like don't it's not PowerPoint
I
for
think
data.
it's a different.
It's
No.
It's a different.
it's so much better than that.
It's a different audience. I think they're trying to go after because what was the original? Their branding was 5 minutes to wow, where it will take you 5 minutes and you can build a great report, and it was basically like data for everyone. And we all again because we're all in a vein. We're like, oh, no, it takes a lot more than that. It shouldn't take 5 minutes. This is a complicated, tool. But they were trying to get people who worked in reporting or data who had Excel files to easily build something.
And they
I,
can.
right.
But
and
you bring up an
you
excellent
can.
point, Tommy, because you're talking about a span of a lot of knowledge, right? You want Power BI to be so easy that the new user shows up, instantly gets value, right? That's 5 minutes to wow. That's what that means, right? Instant value very easily, very quickly, right? And then you look at it and you go further and say, okay, well, we also need to create this tool that is very technical for people who are going to be very experienced, tens of years of experience in this thing. we also need to be able to make it valuable for them. And I think this is where I'm astounded by the tool to some degree, because we're now, again, this is what I would feel like is the great equalizer. When I was in the business and we didn't have Power BI, I would do a lot of work in Excel. I could never hand my Excel information over to an IT professional and be like, "Hey, this is what I built. Use this as your reference point to build a cube, a model,
Right.
a data warehouse." I couldn't do it. They would laugh at me, right? Now we have this tool like Power BI where I can go in, model data, shape things, produce a cube, then build visuals on top of it, and then I can hand that over to the IT side of the world, or the governed data set part of the world, and they can understand what I've written, and we have this common language tool thing that both sides, a highly technical team can use and a highly non-technical team can use, and we can both find value from the same thing. This is unheard of. I've never seen another tool that does this so well. It
And that's
spans that technical
Yeah,
gap.
honestly, like the more they invest in that story,
Yes.
right? Which is you've now democratized how ETL and data connection
Mhm.
and
Totally would agree.
reporting is in an organization, and you can scale it. Now just make that path easier,
Yep.
right?
I
I
totally agree with
Like
that.
how do I like give me a path of here's your next tool, Mike. Here's our next tool. Like identify identify the things that are um you know data sources that need to be updated to somewhere that's uh, more enterprise ready,
Yep.
right?
Yep. How
Just
do you how do you
spit it
grow
out,
it?
and like this needs to move to SharePoint, this needs to move to a database, this
Agreed.
and
I literally just read an article last night about the data modeling trend and where it went from ETL to where it is today, which I put in our topics board. So I think we definitely need to talk about that. But going back to the visual side, right now I don't think they're going at like, not that they're not going after those people. I think the people who are data in Microsoft are probably working in Power BI. So I think that PowerPoint for data is more, they're trying to attract a different type of user.
I would totally agree with you, Tommy. There's
Yeah.
probably a larger
So
audience of people who are not
sure.
uber technical, and like, you don't lead with Power BI, the free analysis services engine
yeah,
that you've
yeah,
always
free
wanted.
analysis service for PowerPoint. Yeah, like
People are like,
what?
"What
Yeah,
the heck are you talking about? I don't get it."
tabular model in PowerPoint. What does that mean? Yeah.
But
No, but
you're
yeah,
right. And listening to like Chris Webb talk about these things, I think he made a comment somewhere. Like he goes, he's comes from the MDX world, right? That's where cubes and models kind of came from, and it's a migration of that. He goes, there's no companies, Chris Webb, and he's very experienced. He's seen this for a number of years. Was a consultant for a number of years before he went to Microsoft. He was saying Power BI was or tabular models are the things that people are now building. People are now creating tabular models. Companies are not building brand new multidimensional MDX cubes. They are just
Sure.
maintaining them so that they stay around long enough to till they can migrate into the cube world of things, right? So, it's one of these technology pieces where they've changed the game. The technology is now becoming very universal with whatever you need to know.
So I guess the thing that's interesting to me is like I I don't think we're saying, hey, we're technologists and Power BI needs to be this, extreme enterprise IT specific tool. Like more of what I'm pushing is probably in line with PowerPoint, Power BI's PowerPoint for data, right? Like the some of the challenges that need to be overcome, and if they're going to solve this with this moniker of marketing strategy around PowerPoint to give more options for how visuals look and are presented,
Yep.
like that's still one of the biggest hangups I have in conversations
Oh yeah.
is we can't get it to look the way we want it to.
so,
And if you're going to have Power like Power BI meet that need,
Yep.
like invest in that space because that's the hardest one I have. Like
yeah.
I love the fact that over the course of the last year, there are really I don't have any blockers, right? With third-party tools and managing really large models and huge ecosystem, like the enterprising of this tool is it's there. I have plenty of things that allow me to do that really, really well and really efficiently. Like focus the time back now on the front. Like if business is going to be the thing that you're spending a bunch of time in, then one of those things absolutely has to be all of the options that business has in massaging and presenting that data in a way that is much better than the experience now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too, and I think maybe it's also the trend where they're seeing the developer and then getting a designer involved, which might make sense. One of my best friends, he works for a company. He does a production for audiovisual and also like helps like all the different conferences they put on. Major presentations, put together the slides, and it's really advanced. Like really professional. He uses only PowerPoint, and we've talked about this too. It's actually incredible what you can do in PowerPoint, where a lot of times we develop something and it's pretty simple, but like I said, I worked with him and I was like, he was showing me what he was working on. I'm like, that can't be PowerPoint. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't
mean,
believe what I was seeing.
when we were custom
Miguel, yeah,
building all of our all the backgrounds for layouts and all this kind of stuff in Adobe XD or Illustrator is where we started, right? Like really
yeah,
complex photo tools. There were a bunch of people that were like, yeah, man, we can do this in PowerPoint. Build your backgrounds, build all your visual. So visually it's very strong. Like there's a lot. I agree, there's a ton of stuff you can do from a graphic design perspective, or things like that within that tool. it's
Miguel,
it's not it's not just flipping out
right,
presentation
right,
slides.
exactly,
well,
exactly,
and
exactly.
Miguel Myers was building full on. I
Yeah.
mean, if you looked at him and how he was building some of the early Power BI things, he was a wizard in PowerPoint. All he would do is build everything in PowerPoint,
Yeah.
shading, gradients, all kinds of settings for visuals and options and objects. So much so that you looked at what he built in PowerPoint, you're like, "There's no way this is created in PowerPoint.
Right.
This is created with an artist. A graphic designer came
Yeah.
here and did this." And
Right.
yes, a graphic designer did do it. He is a graphic designer, but he made it with all elements that were coming directly out of PowerPoint, and then he was able to translate that information into Power BI and do some really amazing things in Power BI just because he knew how to leverage the power of the application, all the settings, all the layers, thinking about layers on things.
I remember seeing the slide. I think there were like 120 components on one slide that were all hidden that were just affecting each
I
little,
would
like
I
like an
would
arrow.
I would imagine Miguel Myers owns the record for number of objects on a page.
Right.
Totally agree with that.
But like 80% were hidden, but they were affecting other things. It was
Right.
incredible. But that's kind of like that PowerPoint for data where yes, PowerPoint can do all this. And there's a lot of people professionally, full time working PowerPoint, not just to make presentations, but to do design. And
Mhm.
it's a whole sub, industry, so to speak.
It's a
But
subculture, man.
it's a subculture. Yeah, sure. But I think what they're trying to do is maybe get those people or get people who are more design focused into Power BI somehow.
I would.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's their whole
Assimilate
goal.
assimilate
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's
Yeah.
assimilate into Power BI.
Yep.
Assimilate.
Yes,
Yeah.
Obituary.
for
So,
you old Trekkie fans.
Oh boy. Resistance is futile, I think is what you're going for.
Resistance is futile. That's
Yeah.
right.
So any other? So let me go back to my notes here. There's a couple more items I had around the less scrolling. So your set point, your note earlier around like the multiple scrolling window bars was a pain. That was not very happy. The buttons options. So if you put a button on the report page, you'll notice that in previous versions, you would have for each section, border, bookmark, whatever, there was one defining option for is it default, hover, clicked, or disabled. You'll see now that that whole menu option has changed. There is a single option at the top of the list for what type of features are you adjusting, and then all the cards below it adjust everything for default, whether it's border, background, color,
that's
text.
gonna make it so much easier.
That I think I do like that change. I think that change is a very helpful change for buttons because when you were using that before, you'd have to switch each section to the proper setting, a default or hover, and now you can kind of mass adjust all of those settings in one particular area, which I think is another good adjustment there.
I had a theme file that hidden in it. If you hover over it, would change to a wonky color and it would make the text center.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have those in the default. So you would just go over and it would go from like this dark green to all of a sudden like light yellow, and the text would just go to the middle once you hovered over. I'm like, this is terrible. So to try to go through that before was pretty tedious. So yeah, I think that's things like that, like those universal apply uh,
Mm-hmm.
is where they're going.
I agree with you on that one. So in other news, just real quick here, Rafa, Rafa, someone from YouTube is just commenting that the March desktop actually is released. So we've hit a really weird moment here where the desktop is out. You can go download it from Microsoft
Before
But
the blog's
before
been
the blog
posted.
came out. This is
So, Mike,
Wow.
on your birthday, you've announced that
Yeah.
the March desktop is out,
Out.
before the announcement.
on the blog. We caught it in it's a very weird it's very rare that you have this happen because typically it's very close behind. So I'm guessing with any couple, an hour or so here, they're gonna actually see the blog show up.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure now, if you download this, hey, this is a perfect podcast because once you install this, I think it's no longer in preview. Or I know they're getting close to that.
I'll have to play with it because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think-
know.
that they were gonna transition, so like there was no
right,
old,
so you
old
can't go
filter pane
back.
anymore. Okay.
So
Maybe this
I'll download
was
that.
this
because I know
February
that-
was the month, and
February was
the
the
Now
month.
it's gone.
I've-
Save the download.
what
Have
a
a
good
different
birthday
version.
present. I get a new version of Power BI Desktop.
Yay! Look at that.
I saw someone speaking of little formatting things. We haven't talked about maps at all, but something that's going to be a game changer is the Azure map. Is now I think it's in the service because they always do these updates in the service. But before, the only way you can use the Azure map was if you had a latitude and longitude. But I think they just finally added location, so like just a look, which is huge because the Azure map is actually pretty darn cool. So something to look. Hopefully that's coming out
We
in
should
March.
do an episode on maps. James
think
Dales
so.
also does some amazing stuff. We could talk about in there.
Maps
I would
are
agree.
kind of tricky to some degree, making sure you get the
Yeah.
right data into them so that they work correctly.
And just how to show it. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Interesting. Cool.
Sorry, comments in chat. I love our audience. You're great. The chatter's good. Join us on
Exactly.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
We do a lot, and I would say of all the platforms we have, probably YouTube is the most active chat. So if you're joining us and you're listening to us, join us on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, and that's where most of the chatting would happen. I think we've done a pretty good job. We filled out some time here and there on this one. We've had some good conversation around the filter pane. I think it's in general, I would say it's in the right direction. I definitely feel
Format pane.
I'm sorry. Why would I say selection pane? All the wrong panes. So jeez Louise. So definitely like it. It's getting better. There is definitely some quirkiness to it, but it's I think we're heading in the right direction, and we'll see where it goes. I'm looking forward to. Well, I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm gonna learn the new format pane. I'm gonna spend some time on it. But now this breaks everyone's documentation who's ever written anything in the last 7 years.
Start over.
Start over. All the documentation is
all the
old.
videos, all the thing. You deprecate them.
There is hundreds of thousands of hours of content that has to be reworked because now everything's different. But it is what it is. I guess people will figure out how to get there. Anyways,
Hey, in the February, Mike, maybe you do a side by side, and then you have a transition video, right?
There you go.
Say, and then you refer back to.
See-
Here's my video.
see
Like,
previous
all these
video.
old ones, they're still good. If you want to translate it to the new one, just watch this video.
exactly right. One video to rule them all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've run through a good hour of your time. Thank you, everyone, who was participating in the chat. We appreciate your comments. We thank you very much. Our only ask, if you watch the podcast or listen to it, is just share it with somebody else. If you give someone else a little bit of, hey, we learned something new. This was a fun, interesting conversation. We enjoyed listening to Mike and Seth banter about some dumb format pane. So you may too. So in those cases, please share it or recommend it to somebody else. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast if you're not watching today?
So if you're not watching, make sure to subscribe on Apple and Spotify. All of our 92 episodes are there. So you can search. You can see us actually talking about the filter pane in a previous episode too. While you're there, please leave a rating if you're whatever podcast platform you're using. Leave us 5 stars. It helps us out a lot. And join us live Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's when we do these things, 7:30 a.m. Central.
Awesome. Well, thank you all very much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.